Since he assumed office, President Muhammadu Buhari has made it clear that the fight against corruption will be a top priority of his government. He has shown that determination in his speeches and his body language. However, critics have pointed to the kind of people that have been charged for financial crimes, insisting that it's lopsided. On this week's edition of the program, we'll look at efforts to fight corruption. Hello there and welcome to the program. I'm Gloria Umezioke. According to Transparency International, Nigeria has lost about $157 billion to acts of corruption. A proper perspective of the problem can be well understood if one considers the figure in terms of the infrastructure, housing, healthcare facilities, amongst others, that Nigerians would have been enjoying if these sums were saved and applied towards these ends. We'll be looking at the federal government's efforts to fight corruption on our interview segment. But up ahead,
many agencies have never credited anything.
The federal government is strategizing on ways to check leakages in public finance. Take a listen. When President Muhammadu Buhari assumed office, he came with a posture to fight corruption, a determination that he has so far tried to implement by overseeing the arrest and subsequent trial of some officials of the previous administration. The steps taken so far has seen the recovery of some stolen funds. Aside from cutting the cost of governance, the administration is perfecting strategies to plug leakages in the federal ministries, departments and agencies.
The presentation to the Federal Executive Council was to remind ministers who are who are the supervising ministers of these revenue generating boards of their responsibilities under the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Let me just remind you that under the Fiscal Responsibility Act, these boards and corporations who generate our revenues are supposed to generate an operating surplus, 80% of which is to be credited to the Consolidated Revenue Fund. But we have discovered that many agencies have never credited anything and never generated any operating surplus, including some whose salaries, overhead, capital is paid by the federal government. Then in addition to that, they generate revenue which they spend without any real form of control. So one of the big initiatives and changes of this administration is to bring all those agencies into line, to insist that they must submit a budget, that budget must be subject to approval, and that they must operate within that budget so that the surplus that is meant to come to the federal government comes in to be used as appropriate.
However, these prosecutions have not gone without criticism on the approach adopted in the administration's fight against corruption.
You cannot convict us except if we are convicted. Arresting somebody does not mean that he's a criminal. It's when you convict him, you know, and conviction is when it's finished, then you know. So we are telling you that in confidence, our leaders, we are with them and we are backing them. They should be strong, they should be strength enough, and we are taking over 2019.
Honestly, if the EFCC or the ICPC or whoever says that they are able to trace certain amount of money to my account, I don't want you to believe it. I want you also to ask for proof and do your investigation. But I can assure you that this government, no functionary in government and cabinet micromanages or directs the FCC or the ICPC on who to arrest or who not to arrest.
Corruption is bad for any society, and it has been partly blamed for Nigeria's poor state of development. The problem of corruption has been recognized by all in the country, and efforts have been made in the past to address it. The administration of President Buhari must learn from the mistakes of the past in this renewed fight against corruption.